The moral argument for God is ubiquitous in debates about the existence of God. I've always found this puzzling. The moral argument seems to be the weakest argument for God, and yet it's made in nearly every debate about the existence of God, usually in the form of, you say babies dying is bad, but how can you say anything is bad without God? So let's debunk the argument. The moral argument essentially states that absent a God, objective morality cannot exist because objective morality requires grounding in a God. God is the source of all that is good. However, this argument has a variety of problems, 4 of which I'll point out in this video. First, even if the argument were true, that would not prove a God. It would just prove that morality is subjective. Many philosophers don't believe in objective morality, so at best, this is just an argument why absent a God, objective morality cannot exist. It's not an argument as to why God exists. Second, atheists can believe in objective morality. For example, I believe in objective morality, and I also am an atheist, as you may have guessed. I think morality stems from the inherent goodness and desirability of well-being. The nature of well-being is such that it's rational to desire, and the nature of suffering is that it's rational to want to avoid. Third, God does not solve the problem. There is a problem with the moral argument known as Euthyphro's dilemma. Is murder wrong because God says it's wrong, or does God say that murder is wrong because murder is actually wrong? If the first is true, then morality is not binding. It's just whatever God says it is. If morality is just whatever God says it is, then God could decree anything, and it would be moral. God could decree that discriminating against disabled people is good, and it would be objectively moral to do that. God could decree that the Holocaust was moral, and it would be moral. If morality is just whatever God says it is, then God could say that any immoral thing is moral, and it would become moral. However, if the second is true, and God says murder is wrong because murder is actually wrong, then morality exists outside of God. If objective morality exists outside of God, then God is not necessary for morality. If God simply reflects objective morality that exists externally, then he's not the source of objective morality, and he's not required for objective morality. Now, some believers try to weasel their way out of the dilemma by saying that good is what corresponds to God's perfect and loving nature. However, that runs into the same problem. Is it good because it corresponds to his nature, or does it correspond to his nature because it's good? If the former is true, then if God's nature were such that he liked human sacrifice, or killing babies, or discriminating against disabled people, then human sacrifice, infanticide, and discriminating against disabled people would be morally obligatory. For people who say that morality stems from God, they have to answer the question. If God commanded them to murder 10 local school children, would they? If they say yes, then that proves that God can motivate truly atrocious acts. Yet if they say no, it proves that morality is independent of God. The fourth problem with the argument is that God cannot solve the problem of morality. Believers say that absent a God, morality is just subjective. However, God cannot make subjective things objective. If he could, then God could make an objectively best flavor of ice cream, or objective beauty, or an objectively funniest joke. So we've made it through the moral argument for God. In future videos, I'm going to try going through and debunking many of the arguments made in favor of God. Make sure to leave in the comments which argument for God you think I should try to debunk next. And most of all, thanks for watching.